Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull just made it pretty clear they want to be back with the Indiana Fever next season. After spending time as Caitlin Clark's caddies at a golf tournament, questions started flying about their future with the team. And both of them keep giving the same answer. It all depends on the CBA negotiations. Have you ever watched teammates show chemistry off the court that made you excited about what they could do together on the court? Let me know in the comments. So the Indiana Fever front office apparently realizes that Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull need to be back in Indianapolis next season. This became obvious after that golf tournament where both of them served as Caitlin Clark's caddies. The whole thing showed the rapport and chemistry between the three of them, which is exactly what you want to see from teammates during the off-season. But let's be clear about why this matters. It's not just cute that they caddied for Caitlin, it's that both Sophie and Lexie can actually play basketball at a high level. Lexie Hull brings energy that you can't teach. She can shoot. She moves well without the ball. And she's the kind of glue player every team needs. Sophie is similar but different. She can really shoot from outside, handle the ball a bit, and brings versatility. Neither of them are Aaliyah Boston or Kelsey Mitchell, but they're absolutely part of the core and depth of this team. The fact that they both have great relationships with Caitlin Clark helps too. Chemistry matters in basketball. When players genuinely like each other and understand how to play together, it shows up on the court. And Sophie and Lexie clearly get along well with Caitlin, which makes the whole team dynamic better. What's also worth noting is that both Sophie and Lexie understand how much their association with Caitlin helps them. Playing next to one of the biggest stars in women's basketball elevates everyone's profile. Sophie especially has benefited from the attention that comes with being Caitlin's teammate. She's smart enough to recognize that and understand the value of staying in Indianapolis. Sophie keeps getting asked about her future with the Fever, and she keeps giving the same answer. At the golf event, she was asked about Caitlin and said she elevates everyone around her, that she's a generational player, and everyone sees that. Then Sophie added that depending on the CBA and what's going on, hopefully they're all together again. She also mentioned that people see Caitlin in a serious light, but the team gets to see the goofy side of her. That, depending on the CBA line, is basically Sophie's stock answer now. She's not saying anything about whether she personally wants to be back with the Fever. She's putting it all on whether there's going to be a season at all. Which is smart because the CBA negotiations are complicated, and nobody knows exactly how they're going to shake out. Let's not be dense. The Fever front office realizes the caddy connection belongs back in Indianapolis next season. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance around Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull serving as Caitlin Clark's caddies during that golf event. It shows you the rapport, the chemistry, not to mention that those two can play, right? Lexie Hull has that energy you just can't teach, can shoot the ball, moves without the ball, a glue type of player. Same thing with Sophie in a sense, just in a different ways. Sophie gave another interview where she talked about what was missing with the Fever last season, and her answer was just health. If the team had been healthy, she thinks they would have won the championship, which is probably true. The Fever were dealing with injuries all season, and it clearly affected their performance. When everyone was healthy and playing well, they looked like legitimate contenders. When asked directly about the likelihood of being back with the Fever next year, Sophie said everyone's keeping in touch, but there's not much to talk about until there's a CBA. That could read as awkward, but really, she's just being practical. Until the CBA gets figured out, teams can't make official moves or sign contracts, so there's literally nothing to discuss in terms of her contract situation. Sophie also mentioned that the last CBA meeting was about 2 weeks ago, and she's not exactly sure where things are at, but the players are standing strong for what they want, which suggests the negotiations are still ongoing and potentially contentious. The players want better pay, better conditions, better everything. The league obviously has budget constraints and other concerns. Finding middle ground takes time. She was even asked about Project B, that new league that's been making headlines. Sophie said if people are going to pay you multi-million-dollar deals, why wouldn't you consider it? Which is a reasonable position. Players have short careers, and they need to maximize their earnings while they can. If another league offers more money, it's hard to blame anyone for at least listening to the pitch. But here's the thing. Project B seems to be targeting players closer to the end of their careers who want to get paid before they retire. It's fighting back against the Saudi-backed leagues that have been poaching talent. Caitlin Clark joining Project B would be absolutely stunning, given her current financial situation and where she is in her career. She doesn't need Project B. She's already making good money through endorsements, and her WNBA contract will only get better as she progresses. Then there's Unrivaled, which seems to be targeting younger players on the rise, players coming up from college who want additional competition and income. That league has already signed several big names and seems to have real momentum. But again, all of this is happening while CBA negotiations are ongoing, which complicates everything. Everyone's trying to maximize their own situation while also negotiating for the collective good of all WNBA players. It's complicated is how much their association with Caitlin Clark helps them as well. So, assuming all things get worked out the way one could see things getting worked out based on the past, both Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Ho will be back. Sophie's comments about Project B shouldn't be taken as a sign she's leaving the WNBA or the Fever. She's just saying she's not judging anyone for taking opportunities that come their way. She's also clearly not making any commitments until paperwork is done and the CBA situation is resolved. That's the smart move. Don't commit to anything until you know what all your options are. The fact that things have been quiet recently on the CBA front is probably a good sign. When both sides are loudly complaining in the media, it usually means negotiations aren't going well. Quiet suggests they're actually making progress and trying to get a deal done. The draft lottery is coming up on November 23rd, which means the league is moving forward with business as usual. That's another good sign. The bottom line is that barring something dramatic, like a lockout that cancels the season or a CBA structure so different that it makes it impossible for the Fever to keep their roster, there's basically no chance Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull aren't back. Lexie is a restricted free agent, which means the Fever can match any offer she gets from another team. So unless some team offers her an absurd amount of money that the Fever can't or won't match, she's coming back. Sophie has obviously benefited from playing next to Caitlin Clark. Her profile has risen, her game has improved from playing with someone that talented, and Indianapolis is a good situation for her. She's not dumb. She understands the value of staying with a team that's on the rise and has the best young player in the league. And let's be real about the power dynamics here. Caitlin Clark is the franchise. She's the reason fans show up, the reason games are on national TV, the reason the Fever went from irrelevant to one of the most talked about teams in the league. If Caitlin wants Sophie and Lexie back, they're coming back. The front office isn't going to ignore what she wants, assuming it's financially possible. The Fever's social media team clearly gets it too. They posted photos from the golf event with the caption about the best caddies, featuring Caitlin, Sophie, and Lexie having a good time in Fever gear. That's not an accident. They're reinforcing the narrative that these three belong together, that this is the core they're building around. There's also something to be said about Sophie and Lexie's self-awareness in agreeing to be caddies for Caitlin. They showed up in Fever gear, supported their teammate, and did it all with good humor. That takes a certain understanding of how things work. They know Caitlin is the star. They know the team revolves around her, and they're fine with that. They're comfortable in their roles as supporting players. That kind of self-awareness is crucial for team building. Not everyone can be the star. Most players have to accept complementary roles, and that requires a certain level of maturity and character. The Fever have clearly prioritized bringing in high-character players. Stephanie White used a shopping cart analogy last year to describe the kind of players they want. People who put the cart back in the corral instead of leaving it in the parking lot. People who do the right thing even when nobody's watching. The one signing that didn't work out was Damiris Dantas, but even the hardship players they brought in seemed to fit the culture. Aerial Powers really meshed well with the team when she was there. The organization has made character a priority, and it shows in how the roster functions together. But Sophie and Lexie aren't coming back just because they're good teammates who get along with Caitlin. They're coming back because they provide real value on the court. Both of them can shoot, which is crucial when you're playing next to a point guard like Caitlin, who creates so many open looks. Both of them understand how to play off the ball and make the right cuts and movements. You could actually run a death lineup with Caitlin, Sophie, Lexie, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston. That's a small lineup that you couldn't play the whole game, but for stretches it would be incredibly effective. 4 shooters around Aaliyah, with Caitlin creating and everyone else spacing the floor. That's a nightmare to defend. The chemistry between these players matters too. They've spent time together on and off the court. They understand each other's tendencies, they know how to communicate, they've built trust. That's not something you can just recreate by signing new players. Chemistry takes time to develop, and the Fever already have it with this core group. The golf tournament was actually a smart move by all three of them. It kept them in the public eye during the off-season, it reinforced their connection as teammates, and it showed they're having fun together. That kind of content helps maintain fan interest when there are no games being played. It keeps the Fever relevant even during the months when the WNBA isn't in season. The fact that hundreds or thousands of fans showed up to watch Caitlin play golf, many wearing Fever jerseys, shows the level of interest in this team. People are invested. They want to see this core group run it back next season with everyone healthy. They want to see what this team can do when they're not dealing with constant injuries. Sophie and Lexie understand that being part of this team is valuable for their careers. They get to play with one of the best players in the world. They get national TV exposure. They get to compete for championships. And they get the financial benefits that come with being on a popular, successful team. Endorsement opportunities, social media growth, all of that flows from being associated with a winning team and a star player. The Fever front office understands all of this too. They're not going to mess up a good thing by letting Sophie or Lexie walk over contract issues that can be resolved. They know what they have, they know the chemistry is real, and they know this core can win if they stay healthy. Bringing everyone back should be the priority, and everything suggests that's exactly what will happen. The only variable is the CBA. If negotiations fall apart and there's a lockout, all bets are off. If the new CBA structure somehow makes it financially impossible to keep everyone, that's a problem. But assuming a deal gets done and the structure is similar to what exists now, Sophie and Lexie will be back in Indianapolis wearing Fever uniforms next season. So Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull are almost definitely coming back to play with Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever next season. The chemistry is there, the value is there, and everyone involved wants it to happen. The only question is whether the CBA negotiations mess everything up.